Turkey reportedly hit northeast Syria with 224 attacks between the 13th to the 16th of January, including 103 airstrikes and 121 ground assaults, targeting a mix of over 92 different sites. 12 civilians were injured. 3 members of the European Parliament condemned Turkey's military assaults on vital infrastructure in northern Syria, labelling them war crimes and expressing concerns about the potential resurgence of ISIS as a result. The 6th anniversary of Turkey's ground assault on the Syrian Kurdish town of Afrin sees legal action by international rights organisations over alleged war crimes in the region. Sentenced to death within 24 hours of a secret trial, 4 Kurdish political prisoners in Iran are at risk of imminent execution after 18 months of incommunicado detention since their arrest in July 2022. Learn more with Media News. The Democratic Autonomous Administration of Northeast Syria released a report on Thursday detailing the aftermath of the Turkish military's offensive in northeast Syria from the 13th to the 16th of January 2024. The report outlines 224 attacks, including 103 airstrikes and 121 ground assaults, targeting a mix of over 92 sites. The military operations injured 12 civilians, including a woman and 2 children, and killed 5 soldiers from the Syrian armed forces. The offensive has had a far-reaching impact, with over 4.3 million people facing electricity outages, about 1.78 million enduring water shortages, and around 161,000 affected in various economic sectors. These strikes also led to the displacement of at least 400 families and affected over 450 individuals at security centres and checkpoints. The report underscored the profound consequences of Turkey's military activities in Syria, highlighting extensive damage to infrastructure, economy, and the significant toll on civilian life. The attacks have led to widespread power outages, affecting millions, displacing hundreds, and causing a substantial water shortage. Turkish attacks against vital infrastructure in Kurdish-led northern Syria amount to a war crime and constitute unprovoked aggression, said 3 members of the European Parliament in a letter addressed to Josep Borrell, the High Representative of the European Union for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy, on Thursday. In the letter, MEPs Françoise Alfonsi of the Greens European Free Alliance in France, Andreas Scheider from Socialists and Democrats in Austria, and Nicolaj Willensam of the Left in Denmark, called on Borrell to act as High Representative and protest on behalf of the EU against Turkey's aggression in the region. The 3 MEPs are co-conveners of the Kurdistan Friendship Group in the European Parliament. The letter came after Turkish President Erdogan publicly announced his intention to continue military attacks in the region. The region, according to the MEPs, has never posed a threat to Turkey and has been a crucial ally in the fight against ISIS, with the Syrian Democratic Forces playing a pivotal role alongside the global coalition to defeat ISIS. These attacks also pose a physical danger for Europe, the letter read, adding, "Silence in the face of these crimes and dangers is simply not an option." On the 6th year since Turkey's capture of the Kurdish-populated town of Afrin in northern Syria, the European Centre for Constitutional and Human Rights and Syrians for Truth and Justice have jointly filed a criminal complaint with the German Federal Prosecutor's Office, accusing Turkish-backed militia of violating international law in Afrin. Turkey, along with allied Syrian National Army militia, has faced allegations of human rights violations in the region since the country launched a ground incursion into northern Syria and took control of Afrin in January 2018. These reported violations include disappearances, arbitrary arrests, torture, sexual violence, and looting. Afrin's population, and especially its Kurdish citizens, have faced widespread and systematic violations since 2018, said Bassam Al-Ahmad, the Syrians for Truth and Justice Executive Director. Criminal charges filed on Thursday demand a full investigation into crimes committed by Turkish-backed Islamic militia in Afrin. Turkey's Afrin offensive displaced nearly 300,000 Kurdish residents who have since sought refuge in the countryside north of Aleppo, known locally as the Shaba region. Turkey has since been accused of forcing a demographic change and replacing the local Kurdish population. 4 Kurdish political prisoners face execution after being held incognito for 18 months since their arrest in July 2022, the New York-based Centre for Human Rights in Iran warned on Thursday. The New York-based organisation called for urgent action to prevent the executions, revealing that details of the trial, charges and court proceedings have been kept secret from their families. The human rights organisation said that the men are now facing execution after a short trial in a Tehran court. During the trial, the men were forced to use court-appointed lawyers and were denied the right to appeal against their death sentences. Within 24 hours, the Supreme Court had upheld their sentences. The executive director of the Centre for Human Rights, Hadi Gahimi, stressed the urgency of global attention, citing the serious violations of due process and the history of disproportionate executions of minorities in Iran. They urged world leaders to call on the Iranian authorities to halt the executions immediately or face diplomatic and economic consequences. More than 800 prisoners were executed in Iran in 2023, highlighting a worrying pattern of injustice and abuse of the death penalty, particularly against ethnic minorities and political prisoners.